Okay, so it's Bridget's Day, 2nd of August, which for me that's tomorrow. I meant to get this done a little bit sooner, but never mind. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a brain dump on what that's all about and how to work with that. So in the wheel of the year, as I kind of follow it anyway, as you probably know, a um, I have a close relationship with Goddess Bridget. She's one of the deities that I'm dedicated to, and so it's a special time, particularly for that reason, a time of kind of renewing those ties and deepening that connection and honoring that energy in my own life and in the world around. So, I guess the place to start is with an understanding of the mythology of the wheel of the year, which there's a lot of variations of, and every tradition and every person probably has their own sort of take on it. But in some sense, the Bridget's Day or Oimilk or Imbolc uh, is about welcoming back the spirit of the blossoming goddess back into the world after the dark and cold and barren time of winter. So, in some Scottish uh, traditions, um, there's a pairing and interplay between the hag of winter, the Cailleach, and the Bridget, or the bride, or the Brige. So you know the Cailleach rules over the time of winter, and then the Bridget returns in and at this time in the southern hemisphere, the 2nd of August. In the northern hemisphere, the 2nd of February is the traditional day. So the particular day, I mean, it's give or take a week here or there. It's nice to do it on the day, but it doesn't hurt to do it either side. I particularly like to do it a little bit afterwards because of the old calendar kind of lagged a little bit. Um, or sometimes you can coordinate that with the phase of the moon. Like for example, this year the full moon is on the 4th of August, the Tuesday. So it's nice to combine the full moon, which is in Aquarius, this full moon, with the celebration of Imbolc, and then those two things can combine. And in fact, I think they go really nicely together. You know, this year because if there's any time that the world needs a new burst of unconventional ideas and new thinking, it's now. So and that's what Aquarius, I guess, is all about, and the full moon in Aquarius about. For me, is about um, the emotional energy behind those new and innovative ways of thinking about society and about the way we organize ourselves. So putting emotional energy into that is something that would be really good to do in the full moon, and that fits really well with the Imbolc celebration, the calling back of the light, the calling back of the blossoming goddess back into the world. So yeah, so there's lots of ways traditionally that people have celebrated the return of the goddess, the return of the light. Some people say the relighting of the flame. So one of the ways that I like to do is the the chanting of the calling for the goddess. You sort of call for the goddess, and then you know, and then you say, "Breeze is here, breeze has come." So so you can sort of chant that. So however you do it, you call the goddess, say, "Goddess, we want you back." Not that she's ever been away, but calling her back into the world, calling them back into the front of our awareness, and then celebrating her presence. Right, breed is here, breeze has come. It's a traditional way of doing that. So a lot of and other traditions revolve around the bride doll. So a little doll, often made of corn or wheat, grain from the field straw, is dressed up in like a bride in lovely white cloths and put in a little bed, the bride's bed, and she's carried from house to house, and you know, people kind of carry it to the door, and you know, there's a little sort of chanting, a little bit of chanting and interplay. You know, who's there? The goddess is here. You know, well, you know, don't just stand there. Come on in, and you know, and then bride is here, bride has come, and things of that sort of nature. So, so I guess the thing is, however it is to you, to welcome back that spirit of the blossoming goddess back into your life, back into the forefront of your thought, back into the world around you is the key. So, you know, often there was in the bride's bed, there was also placed a thyrsus, which is a wand, which is topped by a pine cone, which is like obviously has a phallic symbolism. So, you know, there's an essence of the, you know, in the whole celebration, an essence of fecundity and coming back into the world that was barren, represented by the hag of winter, who's of course done all her childbearing, and now we're celebrating the time where youth now has its sway, the youth coming into the time of the time when, you know, the whole kind of mating thing happens, and you know, sexuality is a lot more than that. And I just have to really say this now, that you know, in terms of the olden ways and the fairy ways and the ways of the fae and the intersection of this world and the unseen world, sexuality and eroticism are an important gateway between the realms, and you know, that we can go right into that some other time, but it's not tied to any particular gender expression or binary conception of you know, male and female must come together sort of thing. You know, those forces of attraction and desire and erotic sensuality are however they work for you, however they feel for you. And you know, the inner world doesn't discriminate like, you know, people can in this uninformed world. You know, the powers and the presences, at least that I've encountered, they are quite happy with any kind of gender expression or sexuality or whatever it might be. What's important is a sense of welcome and a sense of love and a sense of, of interchange and a sense of um, mutuality, I guess. Um, so I guess the point is that traditionally people celebrated the fact that fecundity was coming back into the world and things were coming to birth again. There's a resonance with the in the belly is the name of one of the traditional words, whether it's Imbolc or Imbolc, I'm not sure, but referring to in the belly of the ewes, the female sheep, because they would be doing their lambing around that at that time. So um, yeah, and traditional people understood the relationship between sexuality and fecundity and pregnancy and in humans and in animals and how that all worked. Um, and weren't all prudish about it, as there's still a lot of that in the society today. Yeah, in some sectors anyway. And while we're on that topic, I might just mention as well that one of the legends about Bridget, the Saint Bridget, is that she shared her bed with her best friend, one of the nuns. Um, so there's a kind of a sense in which Lady Bridget has a blessing and protective role for people in same-sex relationships. So, so a time to really look at deepen relationship with the goddess Bridget, Lady Bridget. So one of the ways that I work with that is with the three flames: the flame in the belly, the flame in the heart, and the flame in the head. And these three places, the three cauldrons, the old Celtic people referred to them. There's a lovely book called The Encyclopedia of Celtic Wisdom by John and Caitlin Matthews, which is full of wonderful researches and writings about and musings about the spirituality of the old people in the Celtic tradition. And one of the articles in that is about the three cauldrons of the belly and the heart and the head. So one of the practices that I do is about cultivating the flame in the belly, in the heart, and in the head. And it's a very simple practice. It can be done sitting still, or you can do it as you walk along, or you can do it with some movements, like Tai Chi or something like that, or you can just, make up your own movements yourself, but just depends what you like doing. So I find that having some movements that I make repetitively with a practice like that, which is about visualization and energy, that helps to get into the mood of it again and get the swing of it going in a very visceral way. So, and one of the simplest ways of doing that is you just put your hand over your belly like that and say, I call on Lady Bridget. I call on the presence of the fire in the belly. that this flame may be cultivated in my belly, the flame of health, the flame of healing, the flame of energy, the flame of humor, and just feel into that and imagine the presence of the lady in front of you helping you. Maybe her hand could be over your hand, or in some way maybe see the flame in her belly, and then imagine the flame moving from her belly to your belly. There's lots of ways that it could work. So what? Start with imagination, but then just see it and feel it, and breathe into it. So you breathe into that flame, and you allow it to expand and grow, and you may feel it as like a star, a reddish star in the belly, or it might be like a candle flame, or it might be like a sort of a fire in a brazier, or however it might be for you, and it might be different at different times, but however it is today, allow it to be how it is. So don't be trying to sort of force it to be like it was yesterday, or to try and remember or visualize how it was last week. Just allow it to be how it is today. And it might be, you might just feel a heat today. That's all right. Or you may just sense it somehow. Or you may get a sense of the lady placing her hands there, or placing her hand inside your energy field, inside your belly, and holding a flame there somehow. So however it is going to work for you, it'll work, how it's meant to today. And then you breathe into that space and allow the oxygen and the air to fill your belly. And as it fills the belly, it feeds the flame. Okay. And you do that for a while. Just breathe in and breathe out and feel that flame in the belly, and then come back to the presence of the goddess standing in front of you. So for me, she has red hair. She has a mantle of green around her shoulders. And she has some blue as well, green eyes. But that's how she is for me. So she may be different for you, and however she is for you, that's fine. And just allow her to be there and be in the presence and be breathing into that flame and allowing that flame to be nourished and nurtured in the way that's right for you this day. So it just gets stronger, a little bit stronger each time you breathe into it. And then as you breathe out, it's like a part of that breath stays in your belly. So you breathe in, nourishing that flame in the belly, and as you breathe out, it's like a part of that breath that you breathe in actually goes right into that belly, right into that flame. And you breathe out, the breath that you breathe out is less than the breath that you breathe in. Well, it's the same amount of air, but there's something that's gone from the air into your belly and into that flame. And that is a spirit of vitality and a spirit of virtue that you build up in the belly, in the flame in the belly. So when you've done that enough, and you'll know when you've done that enough, you move your hand up to the heart, like that, and rest your hand on your heart, and allow the presence of the lady to be there. She may be doing the same thing, or she may reach out and touch your heart, or place her hand over your hand. And in the same way, visualize the flame in your heart. It might be a star that shines there, or a candle flame that flickers there, or it might be a fire in a brazier that kind of burns there, or it might just be a heat that you feel there. However it is, that's how it is, and you work with that, or you may not feel anything in particular. If that's the case, that's all right too. Know that something's happening there, and the presence of the goddess is there because you've invited it. So that's all you have to do. You just have to invite her presence, and she will be there. And invoke the flame in your heart, and it will be there. And you know, it doesn't always happen that you have, you know, a multicolor, technicolor experience of witnessing the goddess or feeling the flame. But the act of calling her, invoking her, and calling that flame is enough, and it will manifest in some way. So then you're open to how that is going to work today. And, you know, then you breathe into that place and allow that flame to strengthen and build. And just sit with that for a while, and until the time is right. So the flame in the heart is a transformative fire. I see that as the transformative flame of love, the love that transforms each person and each person's life. It transforms us from within, and it transforms everything around us. It transforms our relationships. It transforms everything we touch and everything we do if we allow it to. And that is the truly revolutionary force in the world, to allow that transforming fire to burn within your own life. So, you know, there's a difference between thinking you know what's wrong with the world and how to fix it up, and if only everyone did this, it would be better, is a very you know, as a problematic way of thinking, because it takes away people's sovereignty to come to their own conclusions and do their own, be their own sort of self. But the fire that burns in the heart touches other people in a way that brings them into themselves, brings them into relationship with the depth and the truth of who they are, because you've come into relationship with the depth and truth of who you are. And that fire is the fire that spreads from heart to heart and will change the world, change the way people structure their lives and the way they feel it's necessary to live. Which is why, you know, revolutions that change the outward structure of society have never had a lasting effect for the better. There have been many of them: the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the Chinese Revolution. We had the Spanish uprisings. So lots of times people have overthrown tyranny, only for something just as tyrannical or even more tyrannical to spring up in its place. Um, so, if we really want things to change lastingly, it has to start from this very heart. This heart has to be aflame with the transforming fire, and from there it can spread to other hearts. So this is the fire in the heart. It's a very powerful and transformative thing, and something beautiful and precious and powerful to be cultivated. So when you've sat with the fire in the heart for a while and you've said to yourself, I'm willing to be changed by that, then maybe move your hand up to the head. I always think of the third eye as being where the fire burns in the head, but other people might have a different idea about that. So, and the same thing, imagine the lady standing in front of you. Maybe she reaches out and touches you between the eyebrows. Maybe there's a little flame that burns there, or maybe there's a star that shines there, an energetic star. And or maybe there's some other flame, or maybe there's a heat. Maybe there might be some feeling of energy there as well. So you do the same thing. You breathe into that flame and allow it to strengthen. Allow the breath to strengthen it, and nourish it, to nurture it. And then you catch some of that breath with the flame, and you breathe out. Some of it, so the essence of that breath stays there with the flame. And so each breath makes it stronger. And as I said, it doesn't matter if you can't see it or don't feel it. All you have to do is ask for it to be there, and ask the goddess to be there and to help you. And she will be there, and you will get the help, and it will work the way it's meant to for you this day. So people sometimes get hung up about visualizing these sorts of things. You can visualize it if you like, but the visualizing is not the end point. It's only the starting point, because we've got to get to experiencing the reality of experiencing the energy and the touch from the other world. And that visualizing is something you do with the imagination. So sometimes it works for people as a gate. The visualizing can be like a gate that opens a connection to the inner world and allows the experiencing to begin. But it's not the only way to do that. And sometimes what I find is the visualizing should give way to seeing. You should just, that's one way it can work. You just see it, or you just feel it, or you just sense it, or you just know it's there, and you can relax. Okay, so visualizing is often an effort, making an effort, focus and visualize. So it's more just allow yourself to relax and have awareness of what's there, and see how it works for you. Whether you see something, whether you feel something, whether you have a knowing or a bodily sensation, it doesn't really matter, because everyone's different. And that could change as well. As you work with these techniques, you'll find that it changes. every time you work with these techniques, it'll be different. So don't get hung up on it. It's not working like it did yesterday or last week. Every time is a new time, and so every time it's got to work in the way that's right for now. And it might be similar or it might not be. And generally there's like a similar kind of theme that runs through. But all these practices have their own life and their own spirit, and you're calling for contact with the inner planes, with the goddess, in this case, Goddess Bridget. And so she will be there, and she will be helping in the way that's best for you, and you'll be growing. So, there's a sense that as you do this practice, you make room for it to develop and grow and allow it to be the way it's going to be. And for me, it's surprising what happens when you have a regular practice like this, like you do it every day for like 3 months or something like that, or once a week every year, So a practice should be done regularly for a period of time in order to get the best benefits out of it. Right, so that's the practice of the cultivating of the flame, the 3 flames of Lady Bridget. And, this is something I would recommend starting now at the time of Imbolc, and do it, every day is the best way. It doesn't have to take long, but you do it every day until Beltane. And maybe by then it's become so full of gifts for you that you might want to keep doing it after that, either regularly or semi-regularly. But that's what I would really recommend be a good thing to do, is to do that every day, at least until Beltane, and see what happens. So Lady Bridget is also the goddess of the holy well, the healing well. And that's another whole story. I think we can do that another time. We don't have to go into that now. But just another thing about the flame in the head is the flame of inspiration, the poet's fire, the holy fire of inspiration. It inspires thoughts, inspires words, inspires deeds. So, there's the idea that the fire in the head is what links us with our divine nature, not just our divine nature, but the divine nature, the divine nature of the gods. This is where we are connected to divinity of ourselves and divinity around ourselves and outside of ourselves. Some people talk about the higher self, the God self, the holy daemon, the God soul. This is an aspect of the fire in the head, or the fire in the head is the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, which is intimately connected with that part of ourselves. So another thing that you can do as a separate exercise to the cultivating of the flame is what I call speaking in star language. Normally when you're speaking to people, you come from a place in the middle world, a place of where the mind is kind of the chief organ of, labeling things and naming things and seeing the world in particular categories and things, and that allows us to communicate and talk. So often our speech is um, is heavily biased towards that reasoning faculty and that categorizing faculty, and seeing the world through our own particular lens. So when it comes to the fire in the head, the poetic fire, it comes from a different place. It comes from a place of inspiration. So words become containers for the inspirational energy of the celestial worlds. And so, and that's the essence of one form of poetry anyway, that poetry is a container for that holy inspiration of the Arwen, or the Imbolc Foreigni, for the Irish term. Arwen is the Welsh term. Owen, yeah. Okay, so so what you can do is get out of the mental construct of speaking. You can just find a partner, find someone who's, a little bit open to sort of crazy or interesting things, and you just start speaking nonsense syllables to them. Okay, and have a conversation in nonsense syllables, and just allow the inspiration to come. Okay, just to sort of be out of judgment of yourself or someone else, and just say whatever comes into your mind in terms of nonsense syllables. You don't have to make any sense. Words don't have to be understandable. They just have to sound and be somehow the words that whatever comes into your head, just say it. And then leave a space and let them talk back to you, or maybe talk at the same time. And just see how it feels. If you can't find someone to do it with, go and talk to a tree. Stand in front of a tree and say, do you mind if I speak some star language to you? And most often they won't mind. And away you go. And see what it does. See how it feels. And, just as an experiment. And I'm pretty sure you'll be pleasantly surprised if you haven't done that before. Some people have. Okay, so Imbolc. The time when the blossoming goddess returns to the middle world. She's been in the underworld. She went there at Samhain with the king of Midsummer, who met his end and had to be taken to the underworld to regenerate. And while she was down there, she kind of came into relationship with the Lord of the Underworld, the Dark Lord. Then at Yule, she gave birth to the young Prince of the Sun. And now she's re-entering the world again. The young Prince of the Sun has a different journey, because there's a lot of stories where he's floated off down the river. So the goddess gives birth, but for one reason or another is unable to, or unwilling to, bring him up as a child. So she floats him off down the river. So an example of this is in the Mammonosian, where the goddess Cerridwen kind of chases Guyon Bark, little white one. I believe that's my translation. Anyway, It might mean something else, but it's nice and poetical, and it fits poetically. Um, yeah, so there's a whole story there, but the bit that we're interested in is where Gwaionbach has to get away from the goddess because he's accidentally consumed the magic potion that she's been brewing for her son, and gets all the wisdom. And the first bit of wisdom that comes into his mind is how angry she will be. So he has to get away. So she chases him, and they change into all different sorts of shapes, birds and otters and fish and whatnot. And eventually he changes into a piece of grain and lies on the floor of the threshing room, and hoping that she won't see him amongst all the other bits of grain. But of course she does, and she turns into a chicken and she eats the grain. And then she becomes pregnant and gives birth to a child, and floats him down the river. And that child becomes Taliesin, he of the radiant brow. Okay, the inspired one, the one of the radiant brow. And he gets discovered in a weir on May Eve. So the goddess comes back into the world by herself, okay, because the young Prince of the Sun is on his own journey of discovery. He's turning into the Radiant One, and he'll be discovered on May Eve. So more of that later. Okay, so that's enough, I think, to get you going and celebrating this particular season, and just be aware of what's changing around you in the world as well. So at my place, for example, the scrub turkeys have started their mating dance. The males chase the females. They've just started doing that. So that's something I'm noticing that's changing. So have a look around yourself in nature and see, if there's what flowers are coming out. Maybe put some things on your altar to represent that. It's good to change your altar. I'm going to be changing my Samhain altar to the ancestors, to reflect the change of the season. I might show you that when I've done that. Okay, so happy Imbolc, happy Imbolc. I hope you get something out of this and use some of these ideas in your practice, and do get in touch if you need to. All right, blessed be.